Astrology. Is it ancient knowledge or a pseudoscience? Like crypto market analytics. You probably know your astrological sign. Most of us do.
Hi, I'm a Libra. What's your sign?
Whether we were interested or knew someone who was, it's pretty normal to have heard of newspaper horoscopes or phrases like the age of Aquarius. In general, science has had a long-standing issue with astrology, both with its methods and its conclusions. But what if new evidence came to light? Should the scientific community open up the discussion again? Would it? Or is too much water passed under that bridge? What would happen if humanity's greatest minds were to examine this subject from the other direction? What if astrology were real? How could we explain its effects, or how they might come about? What sort of plausible theories might emerge to describe the mechanism behind some unknown astrological engine and any effects it might manifest on humanity? Can this matter ever truly be settled once and for all? And how did astrology and science become so divided in the first place? Glad you could make it. We've got a bit of ground to cover, so grab a tinfoil hat, kick back, and let's get started. When Professor David Vos of the University of Manchester first released his paper 10 Million Marriages, a test of astrological love signs, he probably assumed that he'd simply put another nail in astrology's coffin, at least as far as the scientific community was concerned. Involving over 10 million couples from the UK and Wales, the study was widely shared in the press and has often been cited as the largest study debunking astrology. Well, fortunately for Professor Vos and the rest of the scientific community, it turns out that his study doesn't debunk astrology at all. On the contrary, it provides some of the first concrete evidence that there may be an astrological phenomenon. To this day, the professor's paper stands as the largest scientific inquiry into astrology. It would take more than 15 years before someone noticed something unusual about the numbers in the Vos study. In early 2022, while trying to develop the premise for a study of her own, amateur astrologer Lisa Wright came across 10 Million Marriages and began to read through the paper. It was when she reached Table 1 of the Manchester professor's study that she noticed something very peculiar. Table 1 divides the married subjects by sun sign and by gender. At the end of each row is the total number of married women from each sun sign. At the bottom of each column is the total number of married men from each sun sign. What Ms. Reich found odd was that among married women, Taurus had the highest total. The same was true for Taurus men. They were the highest total in the men's column. Her interest grew as she noticed that Scorpio women had the lowest totals for married women, and Scorpio men also had the lowest total for men. She sorted the sun signs for men from highest total to lowest total, then did the same for the women's totals. She was more than surprised when both men's and women's sun signs came out in exactly the same order. If there were no astrological phenomenon, we would expect the two lists to be in a different order, since the genders should be randomly dispersed if the commonly accepted belief is correct. She further noticed that the number of women in each sun sign group was very close to the numbers in the various men's groups. So she plotted a point for each of the women's sun sign totals. Then she did the same for each of the men's totals. The results were even more compelling. With few minor variations, the plotted points for the sun signs were identical between the sexes.
My name is David Vos. Hello.
David Vos had found evidence of a correlation between a person's date of birth and their likelihood of being married in a paper meant to ridicule the notion that such a thing is possible.
No doubts about it.
So now, coming full circle, let's go back to the thought experiment at the beginning of the video. How does this finding help at all? Well, for starters, it does provide a reasonable excuse for us to suspend our disbelief long enough to discuss the subject in a different way Can we form a reasonable hypothesis for a connection between someone's date of birth and the likelihood of them deciding to marry? Or what if we broaden the scope of the brainstorm and try to pull a wider theory out of the realm of scientific possibility? One that might explain the whole array of astrological phenomenon without resorting to circus tricks. Could something be happening during the formation of our very earliest neural pathways? Could the effects of the seasons on the mother and her activity levels or diet have some effect? Maybe early brains have some sensitivity to the moon or sun's gravity that we filter out later as a sort of background noise. What other things might explain such an effect, even if it's not confirmed? It's a fascinating subject to explore, and who knows how the whole science astrology debate will finally be settled once and for all. Maybe it was never meant to be. What do you think? Is this evidence of an astrological phenomenon? Will science and astrology ever make up? Do you have any theories for how the whole astrology thing might actually work? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. That's half the fun of making videos. Anyhow, thanks for coming by, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget to lose the tinfoil hat. Bye.